There we are.
Hey, hello everybody. It's Thursday, February 22, or Friday, 23rd, depending on which part of the world you are. This is the weekly developer meeting for Backdrop CMS. We gather every week just to discuss anything related to Backdrop CMS and see if we can progress different issues that are in the queue. How this usually goes is that we go around the room and we introduce ourselves. I'll start with myself. My name is Greg. I'm joining from Melbourne, Australia, most of the times, sometimes from Greece. Uh, my day job is a Drupal support engineer for the past good 6 years or more. But Backdrop is my passion and what I contribute to. And I'm interested in helping in any way that I can. So with that, I'll go to Izzy.
Hi, I'm Izzy. I'm a freelance developer in Vancouver, Canada. I've been doing Drupal for 16 years, a bit of WordPress, and I'm more recently involved with Backdrop, which is great. I'll pass it on to John.
Hi, I'm John Fireball, live in Greensboro, North Carolina. I've built a few Drupal sites. I'm not really a developer, a couple WordPress sites and a couple of Backdrop sites. I'm really interested in Backdrop, but I will admit to being interested in some of the newer page builders in WordPress that allow for some interesting customizations that are much more difficult if you're not a developer in Drupal and Backdrop.
Okay, I think it's just me. I'm Tim Erickson, St. Paul Tim. I'm here in Deerwood, Minnesota today, where it's like 50 degrees and balmy. So 50 degrees Fahrenheit.
So how we usually go about these meetings is we organize an agenda and there's a fixed set of items and people can either join us at the beginning of this meeting and add items to that agenda to discuss. And also in addition to that, we have a forum post in forum.backdropcms.org where people can, throughout the week, just post comments about things that they want to bring up, and we do that. We also usually have a core committer available, at least one core committer during these meetings. Unfortunately, we don't have one, but we have a lot of core contributors. Yeah. So we also, another thing that happened is that we had some technical issue last week. So the recording for this meeting was not, like, it didn't go on YouTube. It's not available. So we thought that maybe we can record and reiterate on the issues that we discussed last week that were not recorded. Just to catch up the rest of the community on things that we have been progressing recently, or things that we need help with and feedback. So sorry for any unpreparedness, but yeah, we'll just go by recently updated issues in the issue queue and mention the most important things. Before we go discuss about core issues, usually what happens is we have community and contribution updates and event updates. So just briefly, we should mention that we have the Backdrop Live event that is coming up in Tim, help me out with the dates, please. I think it's April.
Yep, I got it in front of me, April 4th and 5th.
Right. And then we also have a discussion that is going to happen during one of those meetings that we have here about the planning, or rough planning, I should say, and ideas about Backdrop 2.0. And that's scheduled for, again, Tim, sorry, excuse me.
So you're missing the highlight here, Greg. It's going to be on Leap Day.
Oh, it's going to be okay.
One week,
forgetting it.
Exactly 1 week from today is Leap Day, and on Leap Day we're going to talk about leaping forward to Backdrop 2.0. If and when that's going to happen. Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, just give me a few seconds because I'm at my work computer, so I need to just log into Google again. Just bear with me, or else my browser keeps complaining. Just bear with me.
I I could talk briefly about this while you're doing whatever you're doing and just say that
Yes, please. Thank
the
you.
idea for this, I think the current plan is that the only thing Backdrop has announced about a 2.0 release is that it would not happen less than 3 years from the end of life of Drupal 7. So is that right? Was it 2 or 3 years? It might have been 2 years.
It's in January 2025. I think it's the official end of life.
Yes.
The final, I should say.
Well, right,
final.
but we've previously made a commitment that we would not do an API break until at least 2 or 3 years after that, right?
Right. Yes.
Do you remember
yes,
if it was 2 or 3 years?
That was the sentiment. Yes.
Okay. Anyways, I think the exact date, it doesn't matter. We'll talk more about that. But that wasn't a promise that we would do it 2 or 3 years later. It was that we wouldn't do it any sooner than that. So we don't want anyone to be worried that they've just ported from Drupal 7 and now they're going to have to go through a big Backdrop upgrade. First of all, we're also one of the core philosophies and principles of Backdrop is backward compatibility. And we, even in a major update, we would adhere to that compatibility, to that principle, which is to make it as compatible as possible. Now, as many people know, there are some features that are hard to implement without sometimes breaking backward compatibility. So the reason for doing a 2.0 release would be if we found things that we needed to do or really wanted to do that we can't do without breaking compatibility, this would be a time to do it. Now, we can minimize those breaks, right? So just because there's going to be breaks doesn't mean they're going to have a big impact or make it really hard for you to do an upgrade. But it does mean that there would at least be some sort of an upgrade process. And so I think what this discussion is really going to be about is, one, do we need a major release? If so, what kinds of things do we want to get into it? And also, like, what we think the schedule would be. There is no current 2.x branch. There's no branch. There's no work currently happening on a new release for Backdrop. So it isn't likely to happen soon. We would, if we did do a major release, we would either need some time or we would follow or the other thing is we could just decide that we're doing the Drupal module, which is we don't introduce any new features. We only remove deprecated code. In which case we could do one on fairly short notice that would remove deprecated code and would only break sites that were using that deprecated code, and they would just have to upgrade.
And usually we're pretty good with, if it's possible, moving, rather than completely removing features, moving them to contrib. So there will be ways around it. So if there's things that will be removed, there's good chances that there might be a contributed solution that you can install and then continue having that thing. For maintaining functionality or markup the way that it was before. There is a thread that started a while ago. I think it was back in, it's since 2021 and before, but there was some recent discussions about what things could we possibly discuss. So I'm not sure if anyone has started a topic on the forum, but if your time zone does not allow you to participate in that meeting, there's a few options. Either you can go into the forum and start a discussion or other comment in existing discussions about things that you would like to bring up. And there will be another opportunity to discuss this live in person, I should say, during the live event. So we just want to get the discussion going and start planning ahead is what we're getting at. Right.
I'll just real quickly show there is a topic in the forum. Nobody's actually posted on it yet, but I opened it up a couple weeks ago. Backdrop CMS 2.0. So feel free to use that. If you're not in Zula, feel free to use this to give us feedback or come to our meeting next week and share us your feedback on what you think we should do with 2.0.
All right. Yes.
I have a topic. I have a topic I'd like to maybe go into 2.0.
Okay.
Is when we add blocks and we can do dynamic. I think it would be nice to be able to, although I did see Laren's demo last week on the new module on images, but it'd be nice to be able to add a figure tag on an image right in that area, because it allows you to do some things with the images that you can't do if you just have the image.
Right. Is there an existing issue in the core queue? And what I'm getting at is that is the topic that you're bringing up now not possible to be done in 1.x? Does it introduce breaking changes and we said that we can't do it in 1.x?
I have no idea. I haven't looked at the issues. It's
Yeah.
just something that I've seen. Well,
But you're making a good point.
Yeah.
So the intention with 2.0 is to allow us to do things that we weren't able to do in 1.x, in the 1.x cycle, just because we would break things. But also one of the goals or the ideas that was thrown around was that since we are doing a 2.0, and mind you, it's minor release in Backdrop introduces new features, so long as they're not backwards compatibility breaking. So we have new features, either small or bigger, every 4 months. The idea is that since we are introducing 2.0, we might as well take that as an opportunity to introduce something really big that makes it what you call it, an impact, I should say. Having said that, there were voices that would said, and what prevents us from like if it is a new feature that doesn't break things, we can introduce that in the 1.x cycle. So yeah, just as a point to keep in mind.
I did a quick search and I couldn't find an issue about this, but that doesn't mean it's not there.
Yep. Thanks, Tim.
well, I can always post something.
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
so John, one of the things we would encourage you to do that some people don't feel comfortable doing, but we would like to tell you you should, is if you have a feature request like this, you should absolutely go to github.com/backdrop/issues and open an issue and say, you'd like to see this feature. And, there's no guarantees that anything's going to happen, but it's the only way to start an issue is for someone to open it. And somebody has to do that besides Greg and I. We can't be the ones that open all the issues. We want some other people to help us. So, but Greg and I don't hesitate. If we wake up in the middle of the night with some stupid idea, we just go to the issue queue and add it, and then we see what happens. Sometimes they get shot down. Sometimes they spur a new idea. Sometimes sometimes they're implemented and they're in court 2 weeks later. And you're like, how did that happen?
And sometimes it might be like 3 years before someone else comes and says, oh, I'm glad that I found this issue because I want this as well. So it might take a while until someone reflames the discussion around things, but at least it's going to be there. It's going to be there as a placeholder. And if you do not have for the rest of the audience of this meeting, if you do not have a GitHub account, you don't have to create one. Then you can start a discussion about a feature or something that bothers you either in the forum or on our Zulip chat that way, and then solicit some help to create that issue for you or start the discussion. Right.
Hey.
Sorry. So a few things that going by the issue queue, and I'll bring up a few issues that came up in the previous meeting that unfortunately was not recorded. One of them is issue 2277. And that's around making config storage swappable. Currently, the issue was being reviewed by Nate, but we have recent progress, at least movement there. What this issue is trying to do is, by default in Backdrop, unlike Drupal 8 configuration, is in JSON files, and by default it's being read and written in the file system. So there's certain hosting providers of larger enterprisey sort of like target audience that have a problem with the way that the platform is set up, and it makes it slow. It basically makes Backdrop run slower, and it would help if the configuration was in the database. So this is what this issue is trying to make, to allow other configuration storage backends to be used. I haven't been involved in that issue, so I don't have any update. I don't have any immediate use for it, but we have some of our core committers and strong core contributors working on it. If you need that feature or interested in it, then yeah, that's issue 2277 in the queue. Then one other issue that came up is that recently there was a the first beta release of jQuery 4. And in recent backdrop versions, we included version 3 as an option. So new sites are being spun up with jQuery version 3, the latest version 3 out of the box. And for older sites, we retain the version 1.x that was being used, but we also introduced a UI option where you can manually go and switch once your site is ready and tested to work with 3.x. There's also a follow-up issue. Sorry, the issue for including jQuery 4.x as an option was started a while ago. Yes, the number is 6404, and there is a pull request. There's no rush to do that, and maybe we should wait until jQuery 4.0.0 stable is released and then we do it. But there's nothing preventing us from adding it as a and the way that IndigoZilla has implemented this is that it adds it, but it doesn't make it the default. And in the UI where you can select, and maybe you can click quickly on the pull request sandbox team to show what that would look like. Yep. Thanks, by the way. This will take a few seconds to spin up. Shouldn't be long.
Okay, where do you want me to go?
Yes, so if you go to configuration development, there should be an item there that says jQuery. And so the previous versions had the only two the options at the top, jQuery 3 and 1. The reason why jQuery 4 is selected here is because a person that came and wanted to test the pull request changed it manually. But if you spin up your site, it won't affect the jQuery version that you have. And one of the things that was nicely implemented is that we state that it's an experimental version of jQuery at the moment. We haven't fully tested if everything in Backdrop works with it without breaking anything. So yeah, this is one of the issues to get this going. Then another related issue to that is 6248 with the addition of jQuery 3 as an option. Sorry, I'll mention the issue again. 6248. So there's some cleanup that remained to be done about with some of the code for jQuery 3, and this is what it is. There is a pull request. It needs a code review and testing. It's fairly simple, like very small. So I think we're gonna get this going soon.
Oh, look at that, how short that PR is.
Yes, it's basically changing a few functions to work with that were deprecated to work properly in other versions of jQuery. All right. The next thing that we discussed is, and I see in the most recently updated is, bear with me. Was it? I found it a second ago. All right, so the next issue is 6402. So it's been a while since we've added 6402. Yep. So we recently added in our GitHub Actions, we added cspell, which is basically a solution that checks the spelling of pull requests, and it makes sure that we do not introduce any spelling mistakes in our code. Before that, we also had PHP-CS, which basically takes the formatting of our PHP code and looks for PHP problems or related to the formatting, I should say. And the other idea is that we should do the same for our JavaScript code, and eventually later, I also would like us to do that for CSS. This would allow us to automate the code reviews or a good portion of the code review, and make sure that because most of the code review is done by humans, sometimes we miss things. So there's software out there that actually helps you to automate that, and it would make it it would help new contributors get feedback sooner instead of waiting for someone coming a few days or a couple weeks later and going back to them and said, oh, you made a typo here, or you haven't formatted this properly. So how this works is as soon as you file a pull request, you will get a series of tests running besides the functional tests that we run that will sort of like review your code and look for any obvious coding problems or styling problems, formatting problems, I should say. So there's 3 solutions there for when it comes to JavaScript linting, as it's called, or tagging. There's one project called JS Lint, which was the grandfather, or I should say the initial solution that people were using, but because it was opinionated, then JS Hint was born, which is another option. And the newest kid on the block is ESLint, and it seems that the community is sort of like gathering around it because it provides some more flexibility. And that's what I've done. I created a pull request for ESLint, and I've gotten it to the point that it works. And it's just a proof of concept. That's why the issue is marked as needs more feedback rather than needs code review. So I got it to the point where I get some feedback. I get some actual results if I do a check. The plan, I was meaning to do that the week that passed, is that to also create another pull request with JS Hint with the solution that Indigo Zella has shared with the rest of the community that she's done for her contributed projects. And then we have 2 options to compare. And also try to make ESLint, at least, which I found a possible solution, to check only the currently changed code. So one problem that we have is that we don't want these solutions to go through the entirety of our code base and scan it, because they will find like thousands of mistakes that needed to be corrected, and we don't want that. So I've gotten it to a point that it checks the files that changed with a pull request, or it limits it to that. But even that is not ideal, because there might be changes unrelated to the changes that the person that filed the pull request has made. So the ideal solution would check only the related lines of code in the pull request. So that's where that's at. Then related to that is issue. I'm not sure if anyone else has any feedback or comments with feel free to stop me and ask questions or mention things that I might have missed. If you don't, I'm gonna move on with other issues as well. The other issue, which is related to that, is it's an ongoing issue, 6302. From time to time, we have common spelling mistakes in our base, and these show up in pull requests that people contribute, and they're unrelated to their code, but because they change a line in a file that has this spelling mistake, it complains. So I'm trying to make it easier, clean up our C-spell dictionaries so that it makes the messages that come out of the pull request tests less annoying for people that are trying to contribute. I'm not sure, Tim, during the previous meeting, did you bring up the issues about the parent menu selectors that
No.
Robert's spearheading? Yeah, all right. So then we should mention issue number 6390 is looking for code review and testing, which basically the title of the issue is add a parent menu selector to the menu edit or add link form. Thanks for sharing, Tim. So as it is now, when you select a parent menu item for the item that you're currently editing or creating, if you have a lot of menus on your site, and even if you don't have a lot of menus, just simply by having the admin menu available, which is quite complicated and big, it causes the select element in the form to be quite huge and problematic to just pinpoint or navigate to the proper menu item with. So the idea there is to change the single select item into 2 select items. The first one will allow you to select which menu is the target menu. And then the second one will only show the menu items within that menu. so we had multiple comments in previous dev meetings and UX meetings that mention as a quick feedback that this is a very good improvement. It improves the current situation a lot, and we want to go ahead with something like that. This is to solicit more eyes to view the code and people to test so that we can move this forward.
Okay.
Right.
Yep. I'm going to jump in while Greg is getting the next issue ready and just
Yes.
mention this is a contrib issue, not core, but my company is working with Martin Yorkshire Pudding has provided a whole bunch of help as well, and working on getting the domain access module ported. This is one of the bigger, more complicated ports. And some of my colleagues that are working on this are relatively new to porting modules, so we're learning as we go. But if anybody needs the domain access module and wants to help out with this, we do have a repo set up. It's very early, too early to really test it, unless you want to just get in and help us identify bugs, although there are a lot of them right now. The module does not work, so we're just sort of swatting bugs right now, trying to move this forward. Any advice or help is welcome. That's it. So you have another issue ready in core yet?
Yes, I do. There's one issue that is relatively new, but saw some activity, which is issue 6103. So with this issue, what happens is this was reported as a bug initially. I created a pull request that was rather lengthier, and it felt like a feature, like it was solving the same problem, but it was also introducing a new feature. So we decided that we'd break that into a separate pull request. And the most recent pull request now just sort of like tries to address this problem in a way that it's not a bug anymore. It doesn't break the user experience by introducing something that is unexpected. This is currently as ready to be committed. So yeah, I don't think that there's any. If
anybody wants to look at it, go ahead. But it is marked as ready to be committed, so it just needs a core committer to give it one last look.
Exactly. So this is soliciting our core committers to just have a look and merge it for the next minor release. Sorry, bug fix release. All right, I'm trying to locate the next issue here.
Anybody in the room have any questions or comments? Okay.
I'm only seeing bug reports.
Well, we're waiting. I'm going to see if John has added any feature requests. Not yet. Okay.
Yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to limit the issues that I have here to feature requests usually, rather because I don't think that we have any pressing bugs to be fixed at the moment, and our 127.1 milestone is looking good at the moment. All right, just bear with us. I've been meaning, like, we can keep this meeting short because I can't see any issues with recent updates in the queue as it is now. But I'm just seeing an issue that is one of my old favorite ones. I'll try to. So how I personally work is I file pull request. I start something that might not be finalized, but I hope that these pull requests will provide inspiration for others, and I don't mind people just coming and taking from the point that I have stopped and then driving that to the end of the goal. One of these issues that I have a pull request for, I think, or at least it needs a feedback. No, it doesn't have a pull request, excuse me, is issue 3624. And this is with introducing a dedicated section in the admin interface at some point that is dedicated about dedicated to privacy and security settings. So the idea is to consolidate any setting or status report that has to do with security hardening or improving on your website, and putting it in a dedicated section where people can just go in and tweak things there related to that.
We could end the meeting early, Greg, if there's nothing else.
Yeah, just the other most recent thing is 5541, which is it has a pull request, and it's meant to introduce an SVG image library. SVG supporting our image library, so supporting SVG. So that's a good candidate for the next. Yeah.
Is this is this like close? Needs work, it looks like. So
Yeah, and I think that Doc Wilmot was spearheading that. There hasn't been any update since last month. So
looks like we might need an update to get the tugboat working.
yeah. Oh yeah. Cool.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Yeah. Maybe we should end this meeting, because the rest of the issues that I find they haven't had any recent updates. So yeah, maybe we can close. Before we close the meeting, maybe open the floor for discussion or suggestions by those present in this meeting.
Anybody have anything?
All right.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Thanks.
Me too.
All right. All right, cool. Maybe then we'll end the meeting sooner. Thanks everyone for watching and joining us. We'll see you in the issue queue and the forum and the chat, and catch you on this call next week.
Yeah, for our big discussion about Backdrop 2.0 on Leap Day.
Yeah, leaping forward.
Yeah.